Okay, welcome back. I did say that I would probably, I did say that I would not get into cryptocurrency or any kind of political discussion, but I take that back at least a bit. Um, and I want to share with you all in regards to the RISE organization, at least the conceptual framework, since it doesn't technically exist yet. And I wanted to share that if we want to provide paid work for all, which is the purpose of RISE, we must, excuse me, we must design a system for creating and issuing money in which work for all is the only possible output of the system. The current system cannot do so for reasons that are intrinsic to the way it creates and issues money. If we want to provide work for all to alleviate poverty, we must first design a system of money that makes this possible. We can easily see the consequences of unlimited money being available to everyone. Money quickly loses its purchasing power, what we commonly call inflation. When money loses its purchasing power very quickly, it's called hyperinflation. Traditional societies maintained the value of money by choosing something scarce as money. In the far from the seas Himalayas, seashells were used as money, as their relative scarcity made them valuable. In the South Pacific, sperm whale teeth were used as stores of value. Scarcity creates a store of value. Money has two basic functions. It is a store of value, that is, it holds its purchasing power after you obtain it in trade for goods and services, and it is a means of exchange. There must be enough of it in circulation to grease the exchange of goods and services. It is easy to lose sight of the individual in the discussion of abstractions such as how money is created. These abstractions generate the day-to-day reality of poverty and powerlessness, social defeat. That day-to-day experience is the output of the current world system's institutionalized abstractions, that is, the creation and distribution of money. If we want to generate another more productive reality, we must redesign the systems that generate the day-to-day experience. To change the output, we must change the inputs and the abstract rules of the system. Now, in subsequent videos, we will describe the engines of that system as we learn how to create applications in Ethereum, and we will give that system a name, RISE. The RISE system is managed, or conceptually will be managed, by an ICANN type organization of volunteers with no financial stake in the system other than compensation for their work maintaining the system. The one guiding principle is that there must be a free version of each software engine so that no for-profit company's version can establish a monopoly. Unlike the current system we live in, the creation of jobs for all must be the only possible output of RISE's structure, since the core causes of poverty are lack of secure paid work and a dearth of ways to build capital. RISE must offer secure paid work and opportunities to build capital for all who choose to follow the system's simple membership rules. For more information on RISE, please refer to the book Meaningful Work by Luis Daniel Cortez, which can be found on Amazon.com. And I will provide a link below. So my account now has, if I click on here, you'll see that my account has 0.001 Ether assigned to it on the R.I.S.E test network. If I select the network drop-down list and head over to R.I.S.E test network, you will notice that my balance goes down to 0. But if we go back to the R.I.S.E, you'll notice that it goes back to 0.001. Let me pull up a diagram to refresh your memory of what I said some videos back. So give me a second here. I need to go pull up my diagram. Pull up the diagram. Is this the one? Yeah, I think. No, this is the one. I have a couple of diagrams up. And so I will go to this here. bring this over here and do a new share. I'm using Zoom, y'all. And okay. So I've pulled up this diagram to refresh your memory of what I said some videos back. Every account that we make in the Ethereum network lives in its own separate universe, its own world, completely decoupled from any of the Ethereum networks out there. So as far as R.I.S.E is concerned, our account has 0.001 Ether inside it. But as far as any other network is concerned, our account has 0 inside it. All these different networks can still have ties to this one account. So let me head over to the browser. So do new share again, head back to the browser. And where's my browser? Share my browser. Okay, I see what's going on. I have to get out of this diagram. Screen sharing is stopped. Window is closed. Okay, sorry about that, guys. There we go. And there we go, back to sharing. All right. Let me get my bearings here. Lost touch here. Going through. All right, so I'm back at the browser, and this is the R.I.S.E Ether faucet. And I want to think about what was just done here. I'm going to go through the exact order of operations that, hold on a sec. Make sure I'm sharing this correctly. There we go. This is what I want to do. So I'm going to go through the exact order of operations that went on behind the scenes when I entered the address in here. So I'm going to pull up yet another diagram. Let me make sure that it is available and ready to go. All right. Close this out. If you guys want to donate for me to get a couple of monitors, so this will go much smoother. Okay, great. All right, so here, this diagram here, the idea is to give you a much better idea of how sending money works with Ethereum. So this is a very technical description of what happens when we submit the address to the on that form. So we entered the address and we clicked the submit button. The web page took the address and submitted to a backend server. And this is a Node.js server specifically to take the address and add a tiny bit of Ether to it. That server was created with the Web3 library. And so let me just pull up another quick diagram. Just as another little refresher. It's one that I've shown before. I have to try to organize it. Okay. All right. So I wanted to give you a much better idea of how sending money works, right, with Ethereum. And so I went over the Node.js servers, which is to take the address and add a tiny bit of Ether to it, and how that was created with the Web3 library here. And the Web3 library is a tool that developers like me use to interact with any given Ethereum network. It is a programmatic portal that can be used to interact with all these different nodes that exist out there. So our backend server used it to create what's called a transaction object. And at this point, let's talk about what a transaction is. So guess what? I need to pull up yet another diagram. All right. There it is. And go up here. And share this one. All right. So you can think this is the diagram of transaction. You can think of a transaction as a record of one account attempting to send money to another account. A transaction is created anytime two transactions exchange some amount of money. This creates a transaction object that is sent to the Ethereum network to be processed. This object has a variety of different properties assigned to it, which you will see labeled here on the left. These are all the transaction properties. And I'm going to walk through a couple of different properties and talk about what their purposes are. The first property that exists on a transaction object is a number, and it tells us how many times the sender has submitted a transaction. In this case, my server is the sender, and the person or entity that just sent some amount of money. Excuse me. So if this account has been used 1,000 times to send 1,000 different transactions, then to send you money on that 1,001st transaction, that transaction has to have a nonce of 1,001. So what is nonce? Nonce is actually short for nonsense. In this case, it's nonsense, but that's, in other words, it's not nonsense, but that's what they decided to call it. So the next property is a to, which is the address of account this money is going to. So to as in T0, to T0. Next is the value. The value is the amount of ether we want to send from the sending account to the target account. The next two properties is gas price and start gas, which is also known as gas limit. And we're going to come back to these two terms here later. Now, one of the more interesting pieces of the puzzle here are V, R, and S. The reason why it's interesting is because we could ask ourselves, where does it specify where the money is coming from, or anything that's, where's there anything that specifies how to provide a private key or a password, or where to provide it, right? So in other words, what is stopping anyone from not taking money out of my account or submitting another transaction that says, hey, go find my account and take all the ether out of it? So this is where the V, the R, and the S come in. These are very complex pieces of data, and I don't feel comfortable explaining them, only because it's more of a PhD level type of explanation that's required. These VRS properties are generated by the sender's private key. Those three values are generating the account address of the person who's attempting to send the money. So generating VRS is a one-way process. If you have the private key, you can generate VRS, but if you have the VRS, you cannot reverse engineer the private key. The private key is used one time to generate the VRS data, and the existence of this cryptographic data, and that it results in an address, and that's how we verify that it's a legitimate transaction. Because we cannot take VRS and redefine the private key, and we can only use VRS to calculate one particular account address, the sender's address. So this is where the level of security comes into play here. So that is a transaction, and I will come back in another video and continue going over the transaction flow.